Hey guys, in this video we are going to look at a slightly more complicated file in order to make arrays. So this one has a bit more than just 5 questions. And so on the left, I've got the worksheet. On the right, we're going to look in a second. I've kind of started out the array. But the first thing I want to look at is this discussion bit. A lot of our worksheets start with these little discussion bits, and you can see that this entire discussion is included in a 49.1. So the first question, we've got the title of the worksheet, enter, enter, and then we have, look at this question, enter, enter, how many numbers, blah, blah, blah. We've got all these enter, enter. So we're creating the same spacing structure as we have over here. When it comes out in Slack, the students are going to be able to see it and read it more organically, more easily, and that's really good. But the key thing to notice is that this goes all the way through. Let's look at the numbers between 5 and 10 inclusive, write them all out. So this does turn into a question. It's a question with an actual answer, right? So we've got the answer over here. And so what that means is that on the actual worksheet, you have to turn this into the first question. It can happen, so you could put it up here if you wanted to and make the entire thing just, all part of question 1, or just the final question bit is totally fine. And then we're going to make that bold because we make all of our question numbers bold. And then, so we're going to continue on with editing this document. We're going to make these ones bold also. I'm going to, sort of create a little bit of space. And then, so one of the things in general that I like to think about is just making sure that things have a decent amount of space, making sure that they're sort of positioned well. In this particular case, we've got this one walkthrough in the beginning that takes up the whole first page. I would like to start the set of problems that are going to come next, on the next page, right? So it's a different sort of topic or a different section. So if you're unfamiliar with it, you can hit Control Enter to get a page break, and that's going to take you right down to this next page. So now here's the next thing that we notice on this document. Up here we have questions 1 through 5, and then down here we have question 1 again. When we put that into the array, that's not going to work out. We're going to have continuous numbering instead of the array because we have to. And so over here we're going to want to make sure that we have that as well. And so I'm going to hit continue numbering, and it's going to turn into 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's perfect. One of the other things that I'm noticing now actually is that I forgot to change my line spacing, so I'm going to do that really fast. 0, 0, single. Okay. You can generally always tell because there's always just like a weird amount of extra space everywhere. And I'm going to double check that the first page still looks good, which it does. The second page now is going to need a bit more space. Okay, cool. And then next, this one needs to be a question mark. Next, I'm going to move the hint problems in general to a page that is not the same as the question, right? As I mentioned before, sometimes the students will receive the actual worksheet, not just the array, inside of Slack. So if they do, we don't want them to be looking at the hints like at the same time that they see the question, right? So we're going to Control Enter. We're going to move these down to the next page as well. And then the other thing is we have generally been referring to hints instead as thoughts. So I am going to make this a thought, colon, also bold, and then give it some space, bold, thought, colon, save. And this one's going to need to have a question mark at the end of it as well. All right, cool. So this is pretty much good. In terms of, worksheet, it's all set. It's nicely spaced for the students to be able to see it. It's got these bold numbers. We're set. We're going to move over to the array then. And we can see over here, so we do this first one. The first one's totally fine, and we've got it all written out. But we get to the second question, and this is what I notice, right? And what I want you to keep in mind. Each of these individual questions needs to be a standalone question. At any point in time, any one question could be used as a review question. In the way that the review questions work inside of Slack is that it shows up and it just says review A49.2. And so we're going to type in A49.2 and we're going to send that to the student, and the student is only going to see A49.2, and also you are only going to see A49.2, which means that all you and the student are going to see is how many are there? Which isn't exactly a question that anybody has any idea what the answer is, right? And so now we know that we're going to need to change some aspect of this. We're going to want to come back to it and make sure we change it in both. But so what am I going to do? I'm going to say how many numbers are there between 5 and 10 inclusive. Right. So now that question is actually a standalone question, and it could be answered, and we know that the answer is 6. Right. I'm not going to make that bold. All right, cool. So this is super important. In general, right, we're always wanting to make sure that we keep that in mind. Because if questions come up and they say how many are there, I mean, you're just going to giggle because what is that? And then notice I also changed it on the original worksheet. This is super important. When I am editing arrays, I am always keeping both documents open the entire time so that I can go back and forth and verify. As I go through the document, you know, I mentioned in the previous video, I'm definitely going to also verify that the numbers match and all that jazz. And then just one last thing. Oh yeah, this one also is going to need to be changed because I changed it in the worksheet. And same for this question mark. So then the last thing that I want to mention, I'm not going to go through all of this right now because it would take me, you know, a little bit, and I'm not trying to make this worksheet go on forever. However, you know, all of the thoughts are also going to be programmed this way. So we have this home, enter, no. There we go, enter. So after this question, whatever question this ends up being, this one should end up being a 49.11. Right? And so we have this question, we'll have the answer down here at the end, and then directly after that we're going to have 2 thoughts. The way that the thoughts work is wherever they show up, that's the question that they correspond to. So if the thoughts show up after question 8 but before question 9, then they are going to show up as attached to question 8. Generally that's not super hard to, you know, make happen. The only really thing that you're looking at is just make sure that the word thought is bolded, so you've got those asterisks there. And then make sure that each individual thought has space between it. Furthermore, in this, for all of these thoughts, you can add their own individual alerts as well. You can put the answer for that thought, right? I believe. So that's all for this one. Yeah. That's all for this one. Just a couple of things, and we're going to expound on all of these things later. Questions, obviously, bring them to me.